I'm glad to be back for another week. I hope Cat's Food On last week worked out really nicely. I'm really glad to have given you a special video. It's a dish that's actually near and dear to my heart, and I'm glad that could be our hour and 10-minute special. I hope you had a good time making it. I hope you got to enjoy one, or your family got to enjoy a couple. And I hope it wasn't too hard of a dish. So this week, we're going to be doing something different. We haven't done that many breakfasts here on West Bergen. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making a leftover breakfast. So let's say you have some apples that aren't really in the best shape. You have some bread that is the freshest. You can combine all of those into a nice eggy bread and stewed apples. This is going to be my first time making the dish, so I'm going to be learning as well as you guys are going to be learning. So I hope everyone has a really positive experience from all of this, and we're going to get started with some ingredient go-overs. So first we're going to be going to use some apples, some butter, some eggs, some powdered cinnamon, some oil, some sugar, some milk, and some powdered sugar on the top. We're going to be using a couple of pans. I'm just going to move the camera quickly. We're going to be using our pots here for our stewed apple and pear. I'm sorry, I accidentally said apples. These aren't apples, these are pears. We're going to be using 2 pears and 2 apples. And we're going to be using this for our actual eggy bread. So just a couple of notes before we actually get started. This dish does contain a lot of sugar, so if you can't have a lot of sugar, like my grandmother can't, there are a couple substitutes that you can use. I have them all written down here. So if we're going to be using a cup of butter, so you can substitute with some margarine, you can substitute with 1 1/3 cup of whipped butter, or 1 1/2 cup hydrogenated fat plus ½ teaspoon of salt. For eggs, you can substitute egg whites, spread the egg and the yolk. For milk, you can do ½ cup of evaporated milk plus a ½ cup water, or nonfat dry milk prepared as directed on your package. So sugar, a cup, 1 cup of light brown sugar packed, or 2 cups powdered sugar, or 3/4 cup honey, but then you want to reduce the liquid in the recipe by 1/4 cup. By the liquid, I'll show you what I mean later, because we're going to be using some water when we make our stewed apples. So there's some substitutes. We're still recording, which is good. So let's start our actual dish. So first, we're going to start getting our pots hot. So we're going to get them roughly at a medium heat, because we want to get it nice and heated for when we make our stewed apples. There we go. So now those are on medium heat, we can actually start to start to cut up our apples first. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut our apples like so. Make sure everyone can see what I'm doing. You want to stay away from the edge. Make sure your fingers are safe. And you do it like this. Then you want to position it flat like this, the apple flat like this, and then just cut. Like that. Then you have some stewed apple chunks. So we'll put those over here and do it again. There we go. Those are some of our stewed apple chunks. You can make them on the bigger side or the smaller side. I'm doing them more on the bigger side. It should be just a matter of preference. Though what is really nice is that these apples aren't really going to break down when you saute them in the caramel because they have the skins on. Notice how I'm keeping the skins on. These provide a lot of extra flavor and texture to the apple. So I definitely recommend keeping them on. I'll cut these ones into smaller cubes, just to give an example of what the smaller one would look like. You got some more off here. You want to generally stay away from the core, but once you notice you cut up all the available apple, what you can do is you can cut down diagonally like that, ensuring that your fingers are safe, and then get some more of your apples. Even though that these parts of the apple might not necessarily have skin, like this one doesn't have any skin, you can still definitely saute it. Getting used to the inverted directions on camera. Cut up some of our apples. Now, while we're doing this, we can sprinkle in a couple of teaspoons of sugar. So So we're gonna sprinkle in 3 tablespoons of sugar into both the pear pot and the apple pot. Wait, that's right. We want to do sugar on that. 1, 2, 3. And you want to let that come to a caramel. I want to go around the back, so I'll show you in the other one, me putting it in the other one. One, 2, 3. There we go. Now that sugar's in, we're going to continue preparing our apples. Have to move back over here now. There we go. This is going to come into a caramel. If you want at this point, you can turn your heat off for a second because you put it in and you don't want your sugar to go to caramelize too quickly. We can cut our apple. Still recording, which is good. Put that up. There you go. I'll cut these ones a little smaller. We do the same trick as we did last time and do cut diagonally, ensuring our fingers are always safe. Though ensure you don't go too close to the core. That sugar starts going really nice, getting nice and caramelized. I think we'd stop so much from this one. Cut a little more. And then those are our apples. So these are the apples that are getting nice and stewed. Now we have to cut up our pears. So we'll do that as well. Put on some nice chunks of pear. Make sure we keep the skins on here too. Now, if you happen to want to mix the apples and pears in the same pot, you can definitely do that. I'm just doing them separately here, as a matter of personal preference. Make sure we cut the pear skin side up. I have to remind myself to do that too. Get any more off this? Yeah, we can get down there. Make sure we get the bottom of our pear. That looks pretty much good to me. Then we'll do the same with the next pear. There we go. Now we'll prep the other pear. We're still recording, which is good. These we're going to want to cut into smaller chunks because they're bigger. So we just did that. And there we go. So now we have our apples and our pears prepped. So now we can move over here and put our heat back up to medium. Does that mean? No, that's the wrong burner, sorry. Heat back up to medium, heat back up to medium. We put our apples in. Listen to that sizzle. Get our black flipper and stir around. Make sure they get all nice and in the caramel. Maybe put in some butter. Some amount, roughly a tablespoon. I believe that's 10 grams. And we'll stir that all in. Our sauce on the apples is starting to form, which is really nice. If we look in here, and we want to put our pears in as well. That caramelized too. Put up just a little bit. Put my pear burner up just a little bit. Stir these in here. Next time I do this, I would recommend putting in my sugar a little later. We're getting some really good flavoring though, which is nice. This is starting to caramelize, so we can put in our pears. When those pears sizzle, we can turn that back down to medium heat now. Was that already? Next pears in. Put in our butter. A couple of tablespoons. We'll stir this around too. The doughs get nice and stewed. Yum. Look at these pears. Sorry, we're still recording, which is good. I just wanted to make sure. Let's do these apples too. Then we can turn the heat off for a second. We'll turn it back on just in 1 second. And then we can put some water in. We want to put a couple tablespoons of water. Let it get a little liquidy. And then we want to, I'd say about this much if you're using a large pot. Definitely not too much, just a couple seconds. Put it on low, and then we want to bring these to a boil and let them cook out. Stir that around. Pour in some water, then we'll let these cook out. So we want to bring this to a boil. Stir them around a couple more times. And let these just stew out. They're doing pretty good. Bring it a little hotter. And that's good. So now the second thing we do is actually start our custard. So we're going to get out our bowl here, and we're going to crack 3 eggs. We're going to crack 3 eggs inside. One. Before I crack the next, I'm actually going to move my computer a little over without touching the actual stand I'm using, so that I don't get any egg on it. Two. There you go. Let's hope we don't get any eggshell on this. Three. There we go. Very happy with how this turned out. So then we're going to start whisking. Then as we're whisking, we're going to want to add in roughly 4 tablespoons of milk. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now whisk this together. Then we'll then once we whisk this together, we'll lightly sprinkle in some sugar. Our apples and pears are starting to. Oh, I think I got some apple in with the pear. That's okay. This is starting to cook out, which is nice. We'll sprinkle in just a little bit of sugar. I did roughly 2 tablespoons of sprinkled sugar inside. If you want, you could do a little more, a little less. Both work out. Now our custard that we're going to be dunking our bread in is almost done. We're going to be adding in sprinkling in a teaspoon, of cinnamon, powdered cinnamon. It's going to give us add like not a hot spicy flavor, but a cinnamony flavor to the custard. Wonderful custard is mixed. Wash my hands quickly before handling my bread. I believe we're still recording, which is nice. Here we go. What's our time looking like? We're doing well. Check on our friends, the stewed apples over here. We've been bringing that to a boil. This has been cooking out nicely. It's looking wonderful and beautiful in every respect. Getting nice golden pears. This just looks gorgeous. I love this. Everything cooking out, which is wonderful. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to start heating up our pan here, medium heat. This is our bigger pan here. Lower heat a little bit there. Put this in a nice boil so that these stewed apples cook out. I'm sorry, those are our stewed pears. Stewed apples are over here, and they're cooking out quite nicely. So next up, we're gonna get out our bread. Here's our bread right here. This is not the freshest bread, but it's still really good bread. So if you're not gonna use it for breadcrumbs, this is definitely a really good dish to use it for. There we go. So now we're gonna put in a teaspoon of canola oil. We're gonna put a knob of butter in the pan as well. However, we're going to be heating this oil in the pan first so that it doesn't, the butter at least doesn't burn. Now that we're heating this oil for a quick second, check on our stewed fruits. Apples are looking good. Pears are looking good. And everything's going well. Move our whisk, put that there for a second, and we start dunking our bread. Put in our knob of butter. Roughly a tablespoon. Sprinkle it in all around. Then what we can do is we can dunk out, once that's spread around, we can dunk our bread in our custard. You only need to do it quickly. It doesn't need to get too soaked. You want to make sure it gets evenly coated on all sides, something like this here. Then what I can do is just make sure to lay away from you. You want to do 90 seconds on each side. Take a quick look on how that's doing. Starting to look good. Keep it going a little bit. Rise at a steady boil, which is nice. Allows us to stir our apples. These are our pears over here. I keep getting them confused. Our apples are over here. A little off camera. Just a little more, not yet on the side. It's okay. Still filling, which is good. Almost. So I'll start a smaller piece of custard going. Or a smaller piece of bread. Soak, soak, soak. Quick, quick, quick. Put that one in. There we go. That's beautiful. So that. Flip our bread over. We can flip that side over. That's not fun. Sorry, I was just